Hello, it's Oren Prunken, and today I want to talk to you about the temptation of creating engaging content. Now, I'm talking about particularly the social space, and this episode I'm not going to actually go into the technicalities of how algorithms work on social platforms in terms of organic reach, but when we're talking about engagement, we really are referring to getting engagement to boost organic reach within those platforms. And there's a couple of different mechanisms that platforms use to calculate if a piece of content is engaging and therefore should be shown to other people. And it's sort of things around comments, shares, likes, and mechanisms of that nature, which are generic to lots of platforms, but lots of platforms have their own spin to them. So creating content that panders to consumer behavior that then utilizes those mechanisms to then create quote unquote engagement will get higher organic reach and distribution on some of those platforms. So there is a temptation to try to game the algorithm and create content that only panders to that consumer behavior and that mechanism that's behind it. Now, the problem with that is, and I'm going to isolate this down to comments, because if you're creating content that is creating likes and shares, by default, you are creating stuff that people like. They want to like it because they are hitting that button. They're also sharing it because they know that other people will find value in it. There is something that's inherently creative. It's something inherently useful and valuable within that. Now, with comments, on the other hand, it's really easy to game comments by putting out a piece of content that asks for feedback and answers to questions. You can just literally ask a question and people will throw their 2 cents in, and you get a ton of comments for that. And then you can reply to comments and they can reply back and have a whole conversation thread in that boosts everything up. Now, the problem with this is, even though it gets a ton of engagement and therefore a lot of organic distribution, is that you are, the person posting it, not positioned as an expert. Because by default, it is implied that an expert knows what they are talking about. And if they had to ask a question about the area of expertise that they are in, or the problem area, the solution area that their business or brand operates in, they are not actually an expert if they have to go about asking questions and seek clarification. Subconsciously, people know that if you're asking questions and trying to seek clarification, you're not an expert. And that positions you not in the way that you should. So yes, on the one hand, you get a ton of engagement, but yes, on the other hand, you are not seen as an expert in your field. Now, yes, you can create content around peripheral areas, problem areas, solution areas, or just even peripheral topics around your business. Now, the problem with that is, even though it's getting engagement as well, it's getting the wrong kind of engagement and getting the wrong kinds of potential prospects and customers getting exposure to your brand. So there's a problem in that as well. So I just really want you to think about the types of content that you're putting out there, and are you pandering to human psychology, and also how the algorithms and the mechanisms that fuel those engagement calculations in your content. Don't do that. Yes, in the short term you'll get quote unquote a lot of engagement, but it comes with a sacrifice of reaching the wrong types of people, but also positioning yourself incorrectly. And that does more harm than it does good. So if you're creating content and you're getting no engagement, and just as a side note, I have been creating long form content in various different mechanisms like video and audio, but text for a really, really long time. And I get almost zero engagement publicly on my on the distribution I do of those formats, but privately I get tons of content. Firstly, asking for help, because people in public don't feel like they can ask for help because it seems like they have a weakness, and also a whole bunch of people contacted me to say they consume a lot of my stuff and actually love it. So in public on comments, you get a lot of co-signing, people agreeing with you. You won't see a whole bunch of people asking for clarification or help on your content, for the fact that it is shows vulnerability and people don't want to show that weakness within public. So hopefully this gives you some ideas around content and the types of content you should be creating and how you should think about what you're putting out there and all the implications that may or may not have if you haven't thought about it. Because from a consumer point of view, every time I see a bit of content that is just pandering to the algorithm, asking questions, I'm like, why are you asking this question? You should be positioning yourself as an expert. And I don't now see you as an expert because you're asking questions around the brand area that you're operating in. Do not do that. It's very tempting, but it can have unexpected consequences if you haven't thought it all the way through. So that's all I want to talk to you about today, the temptation of creating engaging content. So go out, what you're doing. Love to hear from you in private. You don't need to necessarily comment on the distribution of this. I won't be offended. Hit me up in private if you like, because I love hearing back from people. Until we talk next time, I hope you have a fantastic day and we'll talk soon. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening, and if you like what was on here and want more, please go to orenprunken.com.